कुछ ऐसा के सबको नाजो तुम पर, दिल से निकले जब बात कोई कहो बेफिक्र, लफ्ज़ ही से हो सके बयां नहीं रहा, उठो बढ़ो कहो कुछ आज, उठो बढ़ो कहो कुछ
सूचना एवं प्रसारण मंत्रालय के स्पेशल जूरी अवार्ड से सम्मानित 107.8 FM देशभगत कम्युनिटी रेडियो, आपकी आवाज।
Hello friends, on Shakti, the power of a woman, I Tajinder Kaur take the pleasure of welcoming you all once again. Today is a big day for all of us on Shakti, as joining me on Shakti is Rajni Alexander, Consul General for Canada in Chandigarh. There is a lot to learn from the life of Rajni, as hailing from India, having studied at the Delhi University, earned her doctorate from the US, and today she is the Consul General for Canada in Chandigarh. So let's get talking to Rajni ji. Rajni ji, I welcome you to our show Shakti, the power of a woman.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Sat Sri Akal. Namaste. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Rajni ji, can you tell us something about the office you represent in Chandigarh as a Consul General?
Okay, sure. I'll do that. The Consulate General of Canada in Chandigarh was set up a little over 10 years ago.
Ji.
Because there are many people in Canada of origin in the Punjab and in surrounding areas. We cover Haryana as well, Himachal and Uttarakhand.
Right.
So we thought it was important to have a presence here. We have 8 missions in India, 8 Canadian missions, and some of them are trade offices, and we of course have the High Commission in Delhi. So this office in particular was started in 2003.
Right.
And we cover a range of services, and they include consular services, immigration, trade, public diplomacy, what we call, and basically our objective through this office and all of our India missions is to improve relations between India and Canada. And here there's a geographic area that we cover. So as I said, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal and Uttarakhand in particular.
Right. As you said, your office covers like counseling and things like that. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. I'll just say what we cover is consular affairs, which actually means looking after Canadians who are from this region.
Right.
Because so many thousands come here every year to visit for tourism or for business.
Right.
So that's a primary activity, is to attend to their needs.
Okay.
Sometimes those are, when bad things happen, when they lose a passport or document or something like that. And other times it's when good things happen, they have a birth in the family, or they're adopting someone, or they're visiting for other reasons. So we provide services that are needed by our Canadian citizens who come from this region in origin.
Right.
We also have immigration. There's a lot of immigration and temporary and permanent residence between Canada and this part of India.
Right.
So we deal with that. Not directly that much anymore. We have another outsourced it to an office, and we also have online applications, but that is a part of what we do. We've always had a trade presence here. The office here in Chandigarh started out as a trade office.
Okay.
And we have a good and active, although small, trade section, and they're doing very good work.
Okay.
And as you may be aware, Canada and India are in the process of trying to finalize a free trade agreement.
Yes.
So I certainly believe that the trade section in Chandigarh is contributing towards making that a success.
Okay.
And we also have, the area that we broadly call public diplomacy, which, is to improve people-to-people ties, bilateral ties, to deepen the relationship in priority areas that Canada has and that India has.
Rajni, with this note, we'll take a short musical break. We'll just be back.
Thank you.
107.8 FM देशभगत कम्युनिटी रेडियो, फॉर द कम्युनिटी, ऑफ द कम्युनिटी एंड बाय द कम्युनिटी, क्योंकि आपने हमें बनाया आपकी आवाज आपकी आवाज
Welcome back on Shakti Friends. We are in conversation with Miss Rajni Alexander. She is the Consul General in Chandigarh for Canada. Rajni ji, we just talked about trade agreements. Could we talk about it a little bit more so that people know what is going to happen or is happening?
Okay. Actually, Canada is most likely in the world one of the countries most looking for trade agreements with other countries.
Okay.
We literally have dozens of these, and we're in the process of creating more.
Right.
Canada has historically always been a trading nation from its very start.
Right.
And that is very much true today. We are open to the world, and likewise, I do believe that India is very much open for business.
Ji.
So we have these mutual interests to really improve our level of trade.
Okay.
And currently, it's at about $5 billion of trade between Canada and India a year, and that could really grow it.
So what type of trade exactly do you think will be starting?
Actually, a free trade agreement covers all kinds of goods and all
Right.
kinds of services. They're always a little bit complicated to finalize because you have to negotiate. And, different countries have different interests, and they define them, and then you negotiate that and finalize a trade agreement.
Right.
So that's in one of its final stages, I would say, between India and Canada, and we hope that it will be finalized soon. There are many areas of common interest and others that need to be negotiated. But as I said, it covers all goods and services.
Ji.
Right now, in particular, I know India and Canada are both interested in deepening the relationship with regard to energy resources,
Right.
with regard to certain agricultural products. Canola is one that's made
Okay.
a good inroad here in
Right.
Punjab in particular. And there's many others, and certainly technical expertise that Canada has. And we regard international education as well
Right.
covered under
Okay.
trade priorities.
Rajni ji, talking about education, what do you suggest to the people listening to this program about education, the education level in Canada?
Okay, that is a big question, and I don't feel fully qualified to answer that.
Well, you
But
could
since-
just tell us your views.
I think I'll take it back to the reason that, as you know, Rani, that I wanted to be here is
Ji.
what's coming up, the International Day of the
Right,
Girl Child,
right.
October 11th. And if we link it to that, education is so important for the development of human beings.
Ji.
But in particular, women and girls. I mean, it's been proven through decades of analysis and experience that the more educated a woman in particular is, the greater is the health and educational outcomes of her family and
Right,
of herself. She lives longer, her family benefits. I mean, I'm just summarizing here. So education is an undeniable priority, and it's an interest and priority that India and Canada share.
Exactly.
India supplies the second largest number of students to Canada
Okay, right,
after
right.
China,
Okay.
and also the third largest source for immigrants.
Okay.
Such as myself, I'm an immigrant from India.
Right.
So, broadly taken or down to its, details, education is a priority for both of our countries, and we work hard on that in our bilateral relationship. We're always trying to get more students to come to
Ji.
Canada to study,
Right.
and we're trying to work with India to on skills development,
Right, right.
so that people in India could benefit from some of the expertise that exists in Canada for skills and to also fill the skills gap in Canada. So it's a two-way.
Okay, Rajni ji, we'll have to stop here for a short musical break. We'll just be back.
Thank you.
107.8 FM देश भगत कम्युनिटी रेडियो फॉर द कम्युनिटी ऑफ द कम्युनिटी एंड बाय द कम्युनिटी क्योंकि आपने हमें बनाया आपकी आवाज आपकी आवाज
So on Shakti with me, today I welcome you all once again. Rajni ji, let's talk about your Indian roots.
Sure. I'm very proud of them. I was born in India, in Delhi.
Right.
And actually, after that, I've spent most of my life abroad. I've spent over 40 years abroad, which is a large part of my life.
Yeah.
But my parents were in India. They've both passed away recently, but so I've always visited them and come back to India. And
Okay.
I'm very pleased to be here as a person of Indian origin to be posted.
I'm sure, and we're very happy that we've got such a prominent person as an Indian running the Canadian Consulate. So, Rajni, let's go back to what we want you to tell us. That is, how is the girl child a priority for Canada?
The Girl Child and the International Day of the Girl Child was created in 2011
Right.
by the United Nations, which has a number of days to highlight key issues. Canada was very active in the campaign to get such a day recognized, so we're justifiably proud of that. I think there are a number of key issues regarding the rights of women and children, and girl children in particular, in Canada and around the world that we're very concerned about as a country.
Right.
So, issues such as education, human rights, political rights, ensuring peace and security, health, education access, and specific issues such as child, early and forced marriage are issues that Canada has consistently taken up in fora around the world and in the support we provide around the world.
Right.
So getting this day recognized was very important to Canada, and we're very happy that it happened. And of course, every day of the year should be a day that we're conscious of the issues of the girl child.
Definitely.
But it's good to have a particular day to really focus attention.
Definitely. What is the International Day for the Girl Child? What do you...
It's October 11th, so it's coming up on Saturday in this year, 2014. There's a theme every year, but it's really up to countries and non-governmental organizations and governments at every level to take particular note of the girl child. And Rani ji, that's when we had our conversations about my coming on the show. I particularly wanted to link it to a theme that's a priority theme for India and for Canada, and that's why I thought it might be appropriate to come just before the Day of the Girl Child. So it is October 11th. It's a good time, as I said, to focus on the issues of the girl child. But unfortunately, the issues continue every day of the year. So it's something that is very important to realize that all children deserve to live in peace and have human rights and opportunities and access. But there's some particular issues that do affect girl children more, and I mentioned some of them, that they are more likely to be have early and forced marriage or be married as children. I mean, there's 700 million women around the world today who were married before they were 18, and every year 14 million girls are forced to marry. So, trafficking, nutrition issues, preference for males, whatever the issues might be, and I would really like to say that issues exist for the girl child in Canada as well. And I don't want to make it seem as if Canada has solved all of our problems. We haven't. Because, in Canada, for example, just one example, women between 15 and 19 experience in Canada nearly 10 times the rate of violence from male partners as young men do. So, and also cyberbullying or internet intimidation. Most of the victims, 70% in Canada, are women or girls.
So, Rajni, what we can sort of talk about is that wherever a girl child is, whether it is India or it is Canada, girl child needs to be looked after. Their issues need to be, looked after by the government. They need to be,
I would agree with what you say, but I'll just open it up a little bit and say, certainly it's not like, there's any country in the world, unfortunately, that's free from this. But realizing that the girl child in particular is disadvantaged or differentially treated. And depending on the country or the culture, it might take different forms. I mean, there isn't, I guess, a great history or tradition of early or child marriage or forced marriage in Canada. But there are other issues.
But there are other issues, yes.
And and it's not just government. I think it's also civil society and universities, colleges, schools, and families that need to realize that young women and girls as children face different challenges usually. And I think it's also, you mentioned looking after them, yes, because they are children, so health, education, rights, etc., nutrition. but also empowering them so they look after themselves.
Right. So, what exactly could you name a few things what the government of Canada has tried to help in? Just by saying, yes, we are going to celebrate it or we're going to talk about it is not enough.
No, not at all. I agree with you. I think the main initiative of the government of Canada
Right.
is when we were the head of the G8 in 2010.
Right.
And we launched what's since been called the Muskoka Initiative. So it's a global initiative to reduce maternal mortality and improve the health of mothers and children. And this very much affects the girl child, given, as we know, the high statistics about
Right.
early and childhood marriage in countries around the world, especially in the world's poorer countries. So it's in just 4 years, this has led to greater access for basic health care. For example, 42,000 women of childbearing age have accessed additional health care and improved health care, birth attendance, maternal and child health centers,
Right.
etc., etc. So vaccinations, antenatal care,
Right.
all kinds of very, very important things looking after the health, and then, of course, the education and well-being of the girl child and of women.
Right.
Their nutrition, which is very, very key. So, and this year in May, in Toronto, there was a declaration when our Prime Minister hosted an initiative called Saving Every Woman, Every Child.
Right.
And we committed $3.5 billion to 2020 towards deepening, the initiatives for maternal, newborn, and child health. So
Okay.
that's the Toronto statement, and so it's a firm government of Canada priority. But as we know, there's many levels of government.
Yeah.
So and there's a civil society doing different things as well.
Right. What about the security of a girl child? Can we talk on that?
Sure. I mean, that's a huge issue. If you talk about sexual violence, trafficking,
Right.
And wherever there is a lack of peace, and unfortunately, in today's world, that's in so many places.
Yeah.
The people who seem to be the most negatively impacted are often, not always,
Exactly.
but often,
Yeah.
girls and women. Whether it's gender-based violence or whether it's lack of access to health and education,
Right. Right.
whatever the case might be. So I think the issues of security and peace and conflict are very deeply tied to issues of rights and gender equality.
Right.
I mean, these are big topics. I'm not entirely qualified to be going on about them at great length, but there is a very clear connection there.
So, Rajni, what has the government of Canada done for the security of the girl child?
I'm proud to say we've done a lot.
Okay.
We have what used to be called, almost for the last 40-some years, the Canadian International Development Agency, where I have had most of my career.
Right.
Was last year amalgamated into our Foreign Affairs Ministry. We have done remarkable work around the world.
Okay.
We no longer operate as an aid agency in India. For
Right.
about 10 years we haven't. But
Okay.
we still have many partnerships with universities and institutions
Okay.
and NGOs between Canada and India. I'm proud to say that the examples are too many to give you of, we've prioritized countries.
Okay.
We have an annual budget of over $5 billion.
Okay.
And as a department, but of which a large part is also our development programming. And a priority area is the girl child within that programming.
Okay. So, could we tell one of the program or one of the things so that my listeners would come to know that this thing is being done?
Well, I don't work in this area anymore, so
Yeah, but you
I can
still
just give
have
you
an
an example. The
idea,
University
yes.
of Manitoba,
Okay.
which is from Canada, their involvement in public health
Okay.
and in specifically in HIV/AIDS work
Okay.
in India is a tremendous example.
Okay.
We have something that does function out of our High Commission in Delhi called the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives.
Okay.
A lot of that programming is aimed to help in the priority areas such as the girl child and human rights. So
Right.
that's another, and there's all over India we're doing community level support.
Okay. Okay. So, Rajni ji, please hold your thought there. We'll come back and we will talk more about the girl child.
Thank you so much.
107.8 FM देश भगत कम्युनिटी रेडियो फॉर द कम्युनिटी ऑफ द कम्युनिटी एंड बाय द कम्युनिटी क्योंकि आपने हमें बनाया आपकी आवाज आपकी आवाज.
Welcome back, Chi. We are in conversation with Miss Rajni Alexander. She's the Consul General of Canada in Chandigarh. Rajni ji, my favorite question.
Yes.
What do you think Shakti? What is Shakti to you?
It of course means strength, but my yoga teacher told me it's the union of the male and female energy
Right.
in yoga and in many religious texts, and I think that's a very interesting concept because
Right.
women and men obviously need each other,
Ji.
and gender equality. It's not just about getting things right for women; it's about human beings.
Yeah.
So I find Shakti a very empowering concept.
Okay.
I find it very important in its idea that it's men and women together. That
Okay.
if I'm understanding it correctly.
Okay.
And in my time, because I did spend some time in India before I went west.
Right.
There were many NGOs and many movements. I remember writing for a journal which was called Samya Shakti, and the concept undeniably is one of strength and empowerment.
Exactly. Rajni ji, you are a woman of substance. I would like you to tell my listeners, can you motivate them that how did you become what you are? You see, every woman has something in them. You have a strength which you just have to take it with you and come up. I want you to tell my listeners about it.
Well, that's interesting as a question. I'm a bit hesitant to say I'm a woman of substance, but
You are.
whatever.
You are.
Okay, let's just take it as, my personal story very much is that of a girl who maybe I had some self-confidence, but I was certainly encouraged by my father in particular.
Right.
Both my parents, my father in particular, saying all the time, he had 2 sons and 2 daughters, that girls are the same as boys.
Boys, yes.
And that they can be anything they want. And that was a very strong force in my life, that if your father tells you this, it has to be true.
It has to be true,
And it was
yes.
true for my life. And so I had that belief that, okay, let me think about what I want to be. And there was a certain amount of encouragement and motivation.
Right.
And my mother in particular, I think her contribution was a very, very strong belief in education.
Okay.
She really believed that if you're educated, you have most of the equipment you need. So she encouraged me always, and she kind of pushed you sometimes to do well and,
Okay.
study hard. And so, those were great gifts.
Of course.
And then, I always thought of having a career because my father said you could. He actually said to me, it's very important for women in particular to earn their own income.
Yes.
And that stuck with me. And he said, you should earn your own income and experience that. And that's important, and so that stuck with me. So I always thought of a career, wanting to be doing something
Independently on your own.
So I studied in Delhi. I went to Delhi University.
Right.
And then I went to the States actually and did my
Okay. master's
master's and PhD. And then for various reasons, I was sure I didn't want to teach. I had taught
Okay.
off and on, but I didn't want to be an academic. So I actually had a very good job in India working for an NGO towards the UN World Conference on Women in Nairobi in 1985.
Okay.
And that really deepened my interest in, I guess, what we call international development and women's issues. So
Right.
that was a very good start to my career. Then I went to Canada and I had to start all over again.
Okay.
And I was offered a job in a fish shop, and I was offered a job as a receptionist, and I had a
Okay.
PhD, and I took the job as a receptionist.
Okay.
And
How nice.
I thought, you'd have to start somewhere.
You have to start.
And then I didn't stay there long. I was lucky. I think there's always an element of luck. So I worked at a university as an administrator. I taught, and then I became a consultant and joined the Canadian Civil Service in 1993.
Okay. So your life, as you have just described to us, it's very interesting. In fact, I think all my listeners should really listen and work hard. Look at ma'am, Rajni ji, she had a PhD and still she worked as a receptionist. And then slowly by slowly she went up the ladder. And you are what you are because of your own hard work and the substance you are. That shows.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
And another thing, as you said, you went to Nairobi, that is Kenya.
I never made it. I worked for
Okay.
that conference, but
Okay.
as happens to many women, I got married, and so
Okay.
those plans of going to Nairobi never
Okay.
materialized. But I did work hard for that.
Okay. I just want to share a small thing with you that I belong to Kenya.
Oh,
I was
really?
born, brought up there.
That's so
And
interesting.
so when you said the word Kenya or Nairobi, you feel very good that she's been there.
I hope to go there someday. I still haven't made it to Nairobi, but I did go as part of the Canadian advisory team to the delegation to the World Conference in Beijing.
Okay.
So many years later in my career, in 1995, I
Right.
made it to the Beijing World Conference, but I still want to go to Kenya.
You must. It's a beautiful place. So with that note, let's take a small musical break. We'll just be back.
Thank you.
107.8 FM देश भगत कम्युनिटी रेडियो फॉर द कम्युनिटी ऑफ द कम्युनिटी एंड बाय द कम्युनिटी क्योंकि आपने हमें बनाया आपकी आवाज
Welcome back, Chi. We are in conversation with the Consul General of Canada in Chandigarh, Miss Rajni Alexander. Rajni ji, what are the areas you are focusing while in Chandigarh? Some certain things which you feel Chandigarh requires more.
Sure. I think I'm in the kind of job where you could really have a very good time just enjoying the wonders of being here in a lovely city and in a great country.
Right.
But I feel a certain urgency to link whatever I do to
Right.
priorities that the country that I represent has.
Right.
And for Canada, I very much like to link what I'm doing, actually every single event if I can,
Right.
to one of those priorities. So we have a plan. We actually develop a plan every year. It's
Right.
called our advocacy or public diplomacy plan. And in my case, for this year, and I think for the time I'm here,
Right.
it's very linked to education,
Right.
to trade, to consular and immigration, but certainly to people-to-people ties. So I look at, I do get many invitations, and I look at them or an opportunity to share ideas
Right.
through that prism. So I mentioned, for example, another visit I had to Desh Bhagat in Moga.
Yeah.
And that was when a wonderful group from Canada, Punjabi Community Health Services, was doing work with
Okay.
youth in Moga. So the diaspora for us, people of
Right.
origin, of Indian origin, is a very key part because they're very interested in contributing back to where they're from.
Right.
So I find they're very interested in the work we do, whether it's trade or other things, and the
Right.
people-to-people part of it.
Right.
So as I said, I try and build my work around the priorities that we have as Canada in India.
Right. So while talking about the relationships, or you're trying to build a relationship between the two, could we describe a little bit more the relationships between Canada and our region Punjab?
It's a very important relationship. But in the last census in Canada, about 450,000 people identified themselves as Punjabi speakers.
Okay.
But as you know, census doesn't always cover everybody. So I think it certainly could be more than that in terms of
Right.
numbers. And overall, there's 1.2 million people in Canada of Indian origin.
Okay.
So, and as we've said, a large number of them are from the Punjab or from this
Punjab,
region.
right,
So
right.
it's very historic immigration to Canada. It started in the late 19th century from Punjab. And to be honest, there were some tragic chapters in the immigration when immigrants faced racism, or when like the Komagata Maru incident took place.
Right.
And Punjabi immigrants, in fact, were turned back from Canada's shores. But in the last 100 and more years, I would say immigrants from Punjab to Canada have made a stellar contribution.
Right.
And if you look at our members of parliament of Punjabi and Indian origin, our MLAs from the provinces, businessmen,
Right.
the very successful businessmen, including the first Sikh billionaire, is from
Yeah.
Canada, and people who are very active in the arts. We had the privilege of having Kiran Ahluwalia, who's a Canadian from Toronto, and
Right.
she was here in Chandigarh recently. So there's so many artists, writers, and cultural representatives also drawing on the strong heritage they have from this region.
Right, right.
So, and philanthropists. I mentioned one group, but there's so many others
So
who
many,
come
yes.
and they build, sanitation services. They help children, or counseling services. Wonderful work to give back to the community that they're from. So, it's a very, very strong relationship, and that's why we have 8 Canada missions in India, and that's why we have the largest embassy in the world here in India, in Delhi.
Okay, really? Yes. In fact, I was in Canada a few months ago, and seeing all those Indians prominently placed in every place, wherever you went, you saw an Indian, and he was very well placed and doing very well. You felt proud
Absolutely.
that Indians are everywhere in the world.
Yes, I think it's wonderful, and I think in particular it shows, what you said, hard work.
And very
work.
hardworking, of
Yes,
course, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So Rajni ji, what message would you like to give to the woman of today?
If I may frame it in the context of International Day of the Girl Child, I have 2 daughters.
Right,
So it's
okay.
a personal message as well. It is value your girl children.
Exactly.
And motivate them and encourage them and prioritize education for them
Right.
and their empowerment, because the world as a whole cannot succeed if half of its people, that is women and girls,
Yeah.
are not fulfilling their full potential. So I may humbly say that's my message, and it's a rather simple message. It's not trying to be grand or anything, but
But it's a very, very meaningful message which you've given. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Rajni ji, for coming to our show, Shakti, the Power of a Woman.
thank you so much, Rani ji, for inviting me. I've enjoyed myself, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, that, friends, was Rajni Alexander, Counsel General for Canada in Chandigarh. I am yet to come across a doctorate who has not taken to academics. She also shared with us the reason behind her thinking about pursuing a career, because her father told her that everyone must earn their own income. And for this, she even worked as a receptionist at a fish store. Wasn't that interesting, friends? On that note, friends, I, Tajinder Kaur, would like to take your leave. Till we meet again, please take very good care of yourselves and think about the girl child.
जब हो जुनू कुछ कहने का, कहो बेफिक्र, कहो कुछ ऐसा कि सबको नाज़ो तुम पर, दिल से निकले जब बात कोई, कहो बेफिक्र, लफ्ज़ ही से हो सके बनाओ नहीं रहा, उठो बढ़ो, कहो कुछ आज, उठो बढ़ो, कहो कुछ
सूचना एवं प्रसारण मंत्रालय के स्पेशल जूरी अवार्ड से सम्मानित 107.8 FM देश भगत कम्युनिटी रेडियो, आपकी आवाज।